TJ's watching. I mean, you can have some of it. It's Starbucks. It's French vanilla if you want it.
Wow.
I know. Only kind I'll drink. Or mocha, either one.
Starbucks.
Yeah.
I've never hardly been to Starbucks.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. It's
Tim
good.
Hortons.
Oh, I've never been to Tim Hortons or Dunkin'.
Oh.
Yeah.
So let's make sure we can get back into church.
Oh, I came in and the door wasn't locked.
Okay.
Yeah, you should be able to get it.
Somebody did?
Yeah.
All right, anybody watching yet?
No. Nobody.
Okay, well, we'll go ahead and get started. So, we're live here at the new church site, Hocking Hills United Methodist Church. And you can see this beautiful cross behind me and the cool sign that establishes our church name and this church property. It's hard to imagine, just over a little bit over a year ago that we were breaking the ground and getting things started here on this site, and we're so close within a couple of weeks to doing our special service. I'm calling it a consecration service, where we're going to bless the building and consecrate everything. And it's going to be a really nice service. It'll be a combined service. But as you tune in, or maybe if you're going to watch this later, good morning. My name is Pastor Roland. I'm the lead pastor for the church here at Hocking Hills United Methodist Church. And thank Olivia there for holding that phone, walking around, following me. We're just going to give you a tour this morning. And while we give you this tour, I'm going to talk a little bit about the story of King David and how relevant his story is to where we're at with our church. So it's a topic that is very relevant because our present Midbar campaign that we have established, many of you have given to that campaign and given to help towards the building of this facility. Not just you, but the forerunners of our church also will give. And so a lot of this has been built upon their faith and what I like to call their giving out of their willing heart. And this is kind of the story we're going to look at in our scripture lesson today. It's a really important spiritual lesson for your life. We need to learn about how we give to the Lord. Otherwise, the giving that we give to the Lord is basically kind of like what we give when we give to a charity or a fundraiser or anything else in our life. So what we're going to see from this study today is that the Lord isn't really concerned about the amount that we're giving him. What he's really concerned about is why we give what we give. This is at the very root of the subject of this topic about giving. Why should we give anything? Our time, our money, any of our talent? Why do we give any of it to the Lord whatsoever? And what are the right reasons for giving to God? So hey, why don't you join me and follow me, and as we do this tour, I'm going to stop from time to time and share about this story out of the book of 1 Chronicles. So if you're at home, you're sitting in your chair or at your kitchen table, you might want to grab your Bible and go ahead and find 1 Chronicles, the last chapter, chapter 29, and we're going to take a look at the first 17 verses as we share this very relevant story with where we're at as a church today. So follow me as we begin our tour. Well, you'll notice as you come up to the church, this is a nice, beautiful canopy that you can drive under, and the wood is so beautiful up there, and the lighting night it comes on. It's a really beautiful entry into this church building. Some nice doors, double doors that we keep warm. There's a heater way up at the top of the ceiling, and so this is also a warm area. But this carpet here is a nice, durable, hard carpet that will last a long time. So when you come in and you wipe your feet off with the snow or the rain, but as you open this door, you come into the main area. And this is, of course, a huge corridor, a huge area, nice and spacious, that opens up into the rest of the building. And I'm going to direct your attention over here. This little area right here is going to be a little sitting area, and there's some stuff that's there we got to clean up, but it'll have some love seats and a chair and some end tables, and it'll just become a really nice area for people to hang out, talk, fellowship, maybe even have your small group here and do a Bible study here. Try to picture maybe at Christmas time a beautiful Christmas tree in front of the window. So this is a really beautiful area that we're looking forward to. And as you come out of this area, right here, there's no sign up here yet, but if you remember, we had a contest, and we came up with the loft for the naming of our bookstore. Well, there's no bookstore here yet, but it's a pretty nice space. A lot of glass, and the lights come on automatically, and this is going to become our bookstore. And that is the vision for this space, but for now, there'll be some tables and chairs that'll be set up in this space where you can hang out, bring your coffee, and also it can serve as a temporary study space for a small group or even a meeting space. But very soon, we're going to be putting the components in to create and open our own church bookstore. So that's really exciting. This is a really nice space. And the windows are really nice. You can really get a good glimpse of the view out here. And the insulation for these windows is amazing. You can put your hand, it's about maybe 25 degrees outside. You can put your hand on this window. You can't even feel the cold on the window. It's such a nice insulated window, so it's pretty awesome. It's really warm in this space, don't you think, Olivia?
Yeah.
So this is a really awesome space that we're looking forward to using in a variety of ways. And as you come out of here, you're going to come into this huge corridor. Right where I'm standing is going to be a kind of like a guest relations area. We don't have the table in yet. Hopefully it's coming next week. But there'll be a nice countertop here, and it'll be a place where our first-time guests or any visitors that would want to come check out the church, sign in, get a gift. This will be the space where they can come and do that. So that's going to be really neat. Now, I want to get back to the story that I wanted to talk to you a little bit about in the Bible. At one time, the church taught, unfortunately, that a person could actually buy God's forgiveness and salvation from hell by paying large sums of money. Believe it or not, that originated out of the church, unfortunately. Large sums of money. In the 16th century, there was this gigantic building church project, a lot bigger than this project. And it was the St. Peter's Basilica in Rome. And the Pope of Rome at the time was under a lot of stress and pressure to raise the funds to build this huge edifice, this beautiful building. So what he did was he recruited all of the monks, sent them out all over Europe as salesmen to try to what they called indulgences and give forgiveness certificates that were endorsed by the Pope himself. And so these monks would go all over Europe and they would sell these forgiveness certificates. And one salesman, one monk named Johann Tetzel, composed a little jingle that increased the sales of his forgiveness certificates tenfold. And the jingle went like this: as soon as the coin in the coffer rings, the soul out of purgatory springs. The result of this terrible abuse of the church led to people saying, you know what, if I can buy a forgiveness certificate, I can pretty much do whatever I want. I can go and sin and just live a frolic, crazy life and then just buy my way out of hell. Well, that was a terrible thought and a terrible way to live. And soon, didn't take too long, a lot of faithful Christians, true followers of Jesus, began to fight back against this abuse. One of them was Martin Luther. You remember Martin Luther? He started the Protestant Reformation. So I want you to note, though, that this is not the way to do a church building project. But I want you to also note that the building, the church Basilica in Rome, St. Peter started with indulgences to raise money to build the church. Now, fortunately, today we don't have indulgences. They're no longer being sold, but there's a lot of people that actually, from that teaching, still believe that you can buy the blessings of God and even perhaps even forgiveness from God with their gifts of service. So they may make a deal with God. Maybe, they might say, hey, you know what, God, if you make me successful, if you bless my business, give me a good, healthy family, and if you bless me with a nice car and a great big house, I tell you what, God, I'll promise I'll give you 10% back. I will even attend church faithfully. I will even give 2 hours of service every week. It's kind of like a bargaining chip with God. But I hope that all of us see the basic problem with all of those reasons for giving, because it falls short of what the Bible says should be the reasons for why we give to God. This morning, when we look at this scripture text in God's Word, we're going to notice that there are certain ways to motivate ourselves to give to God. Even the building of God's house, like this beautiful church facility that we have really worked hard over 8 years and 6 months to get to this point. Even this beautiful property and this beautiful building, there are the reasons why we do it and why we give to God. But I want to continue this church tour, and then we'll get to the scripture lesson here in just a moment. But where I'm going to take you now is, as you come into this church, this big corridor, I'm going to take you into what we're calling a classroom. But this wing that I'm going to take you into, we are really dedicating to our children and families. But we're also going to use this as we can for meetings and other things. So you're going to come into this door, and it's a classroom. By the way, this little knob, I did not know what this knob was here on this wall, but this is for our speaker system throughout this corridor, where when we're in service, you can actually hear the service on speakers out here in the corridor, and this is the volume control button. I thought it was like a dimmer switch or something. So there's even stuff I still have to learn about the building. But automatic lights will come on when you open the door, and this is a really huge classroom that you can see. And each of these classrooms has a sink where you can do some, basic washing. So if you have a meeting, you have coffee or a Keurig machine, you can set that up. Nice cabinets, and these doors are pretty awesome. I wish I had these in my kitchen. You just move it, it shuts by itself. So that's pretty cool. Even the drawers do that as well. So we've got a lot of nice storage in this classroom. And there's a little closet space even in the classroom. So that's pretty cool. So for a little storage. So this room will serve for a lot of purposes. Meetings, children's time, and in the fall of this year, LifeWise Academy. This will be one of their classrooms where during the week, right over across the street at Green Elementary, a lot of kids will sign up for this Bible class, and we will be doing LifeWise Academy right out of this space as well. Now we're going to move into a huge area. We come through this door. Of course, the lights come on automatically. As you can see, this is a big area to do smaller events where for kids church, they'll have kids worship. We're going to put a screen on that wall, and they'll use this for smaller events. The children will be in here to do a lot of activities. So this is a nice big space. It has its own bathroom over here with an automatic light. So a new restroom facility with a sink. So this is really nice. And all the lighting is LED lighting. And then we have a nice storage area right here. And so you can see, if you can see in here, there's a light switch. This is a nice big storage space. So we got some storage, and we got a nice huge space for doing multiple events, but mostly this is a dedicated kids wing where LifeWise Academy will be able to do events in here. our vacation Bible school during the summer, even some of our meetings with, let's just say we have a smaller group in the church that wants to do some other kind of an event, they can hold it in here during the evenings as well. So we'll shut this light off. And we'll continue out over here. We have, in this space, this is going to be our children's ministry director's office. It's not that big, but it's, I think, a big enough space that you can get a desk in here. And this person, whoever it is we hire, we're looking for somebody right now, 3/4 time position for somebody to help us vision and lead our future children's ministry here in our church. So this is a nice little office space for that person. And then you're going to come through these double doors into another hallway. And pardon our construction, but we're trying to wrap up some stuff. This hallway right here is a nice little hallway that's huge. It's big. We're going to have some seating in here. This will be a check-in area where this TV is. There will be a desk area with a computer. And so when mom and dad come and check their kids in, they can feel safe knowing their kid has been securely checked in to our children's ministry. So the desk isn't in yet. It's being made. We're hoping it'll be here by next week. And then if you come over here, you can look out this beautiful big window and look out at our property and see I have seen all kinds of wildlife, from deer, wild turkey, some foxes. So it's a really nice place to be and sit. So what I'd like to do now is just take a seat by this window and kind of get into this Bible lesson a little bit. So I talked to you about the wrong way to go about doing a church building project. There's a lot of ways that you can raise funds and go about trying to build a church or add on to your church. But what better person to teach us about how to do a church building project than King David? And out of the book of First Chronicles, you can read all about David's life, from all of the things that he messed up and screwed up to the things he got right. One of the things he got right was he learned in his own heart about what it meant to give. Now, David grappled with this question. Have you ever gotten to the heart of the matter about why you should give to God? Not the other person, but why you should give to God. Because I want you to remember something David teaches us. It's not about equal gifts. It's about an equal sacrifice. For David, he's going to learn a really hard lesson later in his life. He'd always dreamed of building God's house. So David built his own palace. He established the Ark of the Covenant in Jerusalem, and he went through all kinds of struggles while he reigned as king of Israel. But one of the things he never got around to was building God's house. So one day he looks out at his kingdom, he looks out at the palaces, and he says, you know what? I think it's about time that we built a house for God. Because he looked out at the tent of the tabernacle and he said, you know what? The Ark of the Covenant is still under a tent, and here I am living in this glorious palace. God deserves our very best. So God came to him one night and explained to David, said, David, I got news for you. You're not going to be the guy that builds it. Well, David, of course, takes the news kind of roughly at first. He has to grapple with this question. Why should I give to God? And so he could have just excused himself and said, you know what, if you're not going to let me be the guy, I've done all this work for you, just forget it. But he didn't. He grappled with that question, and he ended up not only blessing the building project, but he started to take money out of his own savings account and throw it towards the building project. And he was excited to hear that his own son Solomon would be the guy who would build this church. So what started, when he started to build, how would David obtain these sufficient funds, though?
as he looked out and said, we need to build God's house. How would David obtain these sufficient funds to build such a project and to be this supreme ruler over this mighty nation? David could have gone through any means possible to get the funds raised to build this church for God. He could have heavily taxed his people. He could have just put the law down, and he could have done all kind of creative sales pitches and incentives. But actually, David gets to the heart of giving because he addresses the question in his own heart first. And when he addressed the question in his own heart first, he learned some valuable lessons about how we give to God and why we should be doing it. So we're going to continue our tour, and I'll get to that here in just a moment. But here we are in this nice hallway in the kids area. I want to show you one more room. Doors back into the corridor. But this next room is going to be kind of like a multi-purpose room. It's almost pretty much the same size as the other classroom, but this is going to be our nursery on Sunday mornings. So for kids, infant up to about 2 years of age, this is where they'll come. And this window is really cool. It's like a mirror when I'm looking out at it, but when you're in the hallway, you can look in and see who's in here. But we can't see out from who's out there in the hallway. So little Junior will see mommy, and can't see mommy, will see himself. So that's a really cool feature for this room. That'll be the nursery, but it will also serve as a meeting room during the week, also be a classroom for Lifewise Academy. So it can do all kinds of things. It also has a storage closet, a sink with cabinets and a countertop and storage. So it also has a window as well. You can look out to see what's going on out here in the big open area. So this is a really nice classroom as well. So we'll come back out into the corridor. And how are we doing, Olivia? You doing okay?
Yeah.
We got any followers yet?
Yeah, we have 13.
13, wow, cool, awesome. So this takes us out of our kids' wing, back into the hallway in the corridor. And as you can see, what I really like, one of the features is the stonework. All throughout the church, the pillars, the stonework that leads up to the beautiful woodwork and the lighting. These are really nice features in the church, although we didn't think about if there's a Nerf war in here with the youth that you do not want to hit them. Oh, Olivia said,
Surprise.
Okay, surprise. We're going to bring you over here to our cafe area. And this is, of course, going to be an area where we'll have tables set up, and we'll be able to drink a coffee. I think Olivia likes iced coffee. I like tea. But you know what? It'll be a really nice area. The glass, the window to be able to look out. There's a nice patio out there. The stained glass window that you see, that came out of our former Emmanuel Church building. It had been hidden way back in a staircase. But now, thanks to Franklin Art Glass, it's been restored. And they got to do a little bit more work on it. But as you can see, it has now a prominent home, and it's a prominent feature in our new church. This is a really nice fireplace. And so I'm going to sit down here and just share with you a little bit about the book of 1 Chronicles chapter 29. And so if you have your Bible and you'd like to follow along, I'm going to share with you just a few of the first 5 verses here. So this is basically the end of David's life. He's an old man. God's blessed his life abundantly. He's lived a ripe old age. He's had health. He's had a beautiful life, even through all of the mistakes he's made. And he comes down to this time when he's giving gifts to build God's house. So the first 5 verses says, Then King David said to the whole assembly, he gathered the whole nation, My son Solomon, the one whom God has chosen, is young and inexperienced. The task is great, because this palatial structure is not for man, but for the Lord God. Now, that's verse 1, and I want you to notice that one of the things that we learn is that even though this place is a physical structure, and we're using it, It is a unique structure because this is going to be a house of God. And this is what we are dedicating to God in service to him. And so David is announcing to the nation, hey, Solomon's going to be the one who's going to build this house of God. So verse 2, he says, with all my resources, I have provided for the temple of my God, gold for the gold work, silver for the silver, bronze for the bronze, iron for the iron, and wood for the wood, as well as onyx for the settings, the turquoise stones, the various colors, and all kinds of fine stone and marble, all of these in large quantities. Besides, in my own devotion to the temple of my God, I now give my personal treasures of gold and silver for the temple of my God, over and above everything I have provided for this holy temple. And then he kind of goes into what he's given. Then we get to verse 5, he says, for the gold work and the silver work and for all the work to be done by the craftsmen. And then David says this, he says, now who is willing to consecrate himself today to the Lord? And so this is kind of the first lesson David teaches us about giving. We do this because the Lord deserves our very best. That's what he's saying in these first 5 verses. David says, hey, I've personally learned, I've grappled with the question in my own heart why I should be doing this. And he says, not only have I discovered that maybe I'm not the guy that's going to build this, but I can be the guy that sets it all up. I can provide the resources. I'm going to give out of my own savings. I'm so excited about this. But in David's mind, building something less glorious with cheaper building materials, with leftovers, that was out of the question for God's house. Absolutely not. It was unthinkable in his mind. You see, God deserves the very best that we can offer him because he is none other than the mighty, awesome, powerful God. So David shares his own passion in contributing to the project and has already set this wonderful example of giving for his people. And now, in verse 5, he's asking them this question. And we'll read verse 5 again. It says, who then will offer willingly, consecrating himself today to the Lord? So here's a very clear invitation to give to the Lord. But there's also something very interesting about the invitation. David just doesn't simply say, who then is willing to give unto the Lord? You know, there's a story that Reverend Rick Villardo shared during our Midbar campaign, and I thought it was just a classic truth to the way we think and go about giving to the church and to God. And it's unfortunate. It's kind of a funny story, but it's really has a lot of truth to it. So it was Thanksgiving time, and I think it was Tyson or one of these meat companies that sell turkeys. They set up a turkey hotline during Thanksgiving. So you can call in, and if you've never cooked a turkey before, you got questions, you can call the hotline. If you've got trouble with your turkey, you're wondering, you just call this turkey hotline. And there's people on the phone that'll walk you through. Well, they never thought they'd get this kind of call, but this lady calls in the turkey hotline, and she says, you know what? We have realized we've had this turkey in our freezer for 20 years. And we were just wondering, you think it's still good? So, of course, the person on the other end of the phone is like, I've never gotten this question before. So he puts her on pause and says, let me talk to the manager. So he calls the manager over and other people over, and he poses the question to them. It's kind of like a huddle in a football game when the referees get all in a huddle about a certain play and they go to the review booth. Well, he goes to the review booth. Hey, we've never gotten this question before. Well, they huddle up, they talk it over, and he gets back on the phone and he says, you know what, ma'am, we've talked it over. I don't think there's any problem with you. I think the turkey would be good to cook, you know, even though you sure it's been in the freezer? It's not thawed at all. She said, yes. So, well, if it's been in your freezer for 20 years, you can cook it, but we do want to tell you, it's more than likely lost all of its flavor. She said, well, that's what we thought. We'll just go ahead and give it to the church. And you know what? That's kind of the mentality in a lot of people's lives. But what we're setting in today, what you're going to experience when you come here in a couple Sundays, this was not built with people's leftovers. This was built by people who learned what David learned about what it means to give willingly and to consecrate that giving to God. So I can show you that what you see here hasn't been built with leftovers. So David uses this word, consecrate your service. This is a technical term that was used in the Old Testament that described the ordination of priests. Now, there's a strong connotation of dedication and devotion to service. So what David's implying here is that all of us, when it comes to giving, can be priests, consecrating ourselves to give to God in our treasure, whatever God gives us, in our time, and in our talents. So it's not just an act of giving our surplus of funds or our spare time or our spare change, like when you would give to a charity, but it's an act that you are devoting yourself totally to God and then keeping nothing held back from Him. And this act becomes a privilege. This isn't just giving to all people that can do this. And we're going to see as we come to our second point as David learns, but let's go check out our kitchen as we continue this tour, and then we'll get to our second point. But I'm going to take you out of this cafe, and through this door is going to be our church kitchen. And this is a really nice, huge space. As you can see, we have a lot of countertops, a lot of storage. This huge hood is a nice feature that this stove came out, I believe, of our former Emmanuel building and the convection oven. And there's going to be a dishwasher that'll go here. It's over there. They haven't got it in yet, hopefully this week. But you can see the nice sink and all of the countertops that we have. And this is a really cool feature, this window that will open up to the cafe area. And you can open up this window and we'll be serving stuff out of this window from the kitchen. And this is a nice freezer that we got from Sears that we have for the kitchen. This was in our Emmanuel building. And then right behind you, this big, huge refrigerator. It's this thing we got this past week with Jerry Swank, me, and TJ. And we were able to get this nice refrigerator at an auction for a great price. And then this freezer here, or wait a minute, this is a refrigerator. This came out of the, I believe, the former Trinity building. And then this ice machine we got from a closed down restaurant. We picked it up in Zanesville, Ohio. It needs some cleaning, but it works. So as you can see, our kitchen is a beautiful kitchen, and we have a lot of space to do a lot of things. So we're going to take you back out of the kitchen. By the way, here's a nice little storage area. And we'll turn the light on here. So this is a nice little storage area, a hot water tank. We got a little wash basin here to put a bucket and mop and stuff. So this will be a nice little space for storing stuff. So these doors, by the way, are nice and solid doors. Each door is a really nice heavy door. So these aren't cheap doors, they're heavy. And this is our little cafe serving area. This is really neat, where a lot of you will be able to come, and we're going to have tables and chairs set up out here. And there'll be a sign up that'll designate this, and I believe in the contest we said that it was the perfect blend. That was the vote. So we have a really cool sign that's going to be going up here. So I want to kind of continue with this story about David. And the second point is that we give because it's a joy and a privilege to give. In verses 6 through 9, we see that there's a response from David's initial statements in the first 5 verses. He gets this from his leaders and his people. And verses 6 through 9 kind of translate the amount that was given. So I'm going to put this in modern terms. if you're looking at these verses, the people, leadership and the people gave about 170 metric tons of gold, 340 tons of silver, over 600 tons of brass, and about 3,400 tons of iron. And the value of all that today would just be staggeringly enormous. What a tremendous response that David got from his leaders and his people, because they gave a free will offering for the building of God's house. Just imagine if every Christian approached giving the way David did. If we all approached giving with the question about willingly, freely giving out of whatever we have, there would be no lack of funds in any church. However, in a lot of churches, just mentioning the dollar bill or money sets people off. There's heavy criticism. There's a lot of questions around, well, why does the church need my money? Why do we have to give? And at least people getting upset and disgruntled. But I want you to notice when you read this text, and you look at this story, these people weren't upset, they weren't sad, they weren't grieved. The Bible says they were happy. They rejoiced and they celebrated because what they offered was willingly, freely. And then also, David rejoices with great joy when he sees how the people are responding. Why were they so happy? I mean, what made them rejoice? Well, the only reason they were able to rejoice in their giving was that they considered this act of giving not as a duty, not out of their obligation, but because it was a privilege. So here we have, when we go to the heart of giving, when we think about what David had to struggle with his own life, he discovered that, you know what, when I give out of my heart, I'm going to be giving the best to my Lord. But then secondly, this is a privilege to be able to do something like this. Well, we're going to head to the sanctuary, and we're going to check the sanctuary out, and then we're going to meet TJ, and he's going to share some songs with us, and then we're going to wrap up this tour of the church. So let's head into the sanctuary. And as we come out of the cafe, you'll notice there's been a couple of teams, and I do want to take the opportunity to say thank you to these teams who have come in here this week, scrubbed the windows, scrubbed the floors. It still needs cleaning from all of the dust and all of the construction work, but a lot of it is getting done and it's looking beautiful. By the way, there's restrooms down here, but I'm not taking you and Olivia into the restrooms with me. So, well, you just know that there's some nice restrooms in the church. But there'll be a sign up here that'll say Worship Center, and then you'll come through these double doors, and there's a nice little section here in this room here. It's a really awesome feature. It's our security room, and it has a big TV, and there's cameras all throughout, outside and inside this church. That's a nice little place for security. But as we come into the sanctuary, I want you to notice that as we look up here, this is the tech booth. It looks like the cockpit of an airplane to me, with all of these gadgets and stuff. But this is where our tech team, media team, even the lighting team, this is where they will be when we're doing worship or maybe other services and events. Right behind us is a really nice storage space. And I'm going to find the light switch. Here it is. So this is where we're going to store tables and chairs when we're doing different things. This is a nice little storage space for things. So we're going to walk ourselves into the sanctuary. And if you look to my right, you'll see the stained glass that came out of the former Trinity building. And over to my left, you'll see some stained glass that came also out of the former Trinity building, and it's lit up. It has lights on them. These chairs that you see in the sanctuary, they're plastic. They're not the sanctuary chairs. Those have been delayed. We don't know when they're coming. But these chairs will be used for dinners or over in the children's wing for other kind of activities and things. And then you can see the big stage. It's a huge stage. I can barely see TJ up there, but we're going to make our way up there and meet TJ and let him do some music. By the way, while we do this, I want to show you this cool drum set We do have some stairs that will occasionally be here in front. So this huge drum set was recently purchased by the church from Mike Grove. And man, it's massive, and it's going to have a drum cage. And the drum cage is on its way, so it'll be in a drum cage, and it'll be hooked up through the system. So during our harbor service, we'll have some live drums. And TJ made this totally awesome keyboard. It looks like a piano, but it's a really awesome Nord keyboard that sits inside the frame of an old piano. So he really redid this nicely.
If you press the button, it'll turn the lights on the inside there.
There's the button. There's some lighting that the keyboard player will have. As you can see, there's just a button for the lighting that helps light it up so they can see. So this is a really nice feature here that TJ helped put together for our keyboard. And then of course our big Steinway piano has finally found its home, and we're excited to see Sue Ellen get on that and be playing that for services. This is TJ. He's our worship arts director. He's of course done all kinds of stuff. He's put this together. He's helped put the drum set together. He does a lot of graphics work in the life of the church, and he also does our worship service and our harbor service. And I'm going to hand it over to TJ and let him do some music for you, and so you have a chance to worship the Lord this morning. TJ, take it away.
All right. You are my God, and I love you so. Your love is more precious than diamonds and gold. Your voice is a blanket that warms when I'm cold. You're a drink when I thirst and my cup overflows. You give and give and give, and I'm never alone. Wherever I go, it is well with my soul. 'Cause there's not a storm that can sweep me from you. I fall on my face and I praise your name. I'm covered in blood of the Lamb who was slain. You paid the price that I couldn't pay, and I'll never be the same. Is quiet, it falls like snow. You're righteous and just and merciful. You swooped down and caught me when I was low. And I'm holding on tight and I'll never let go. 'Cause you give and give and give, and I'm never alone. Wherever I go, it is well with my soul. 'Cause there's not a storm that can sweep me from you. I fall on my face and I praise your name. I'm covered in blood of the Lamb who was slain. You paid the price that I couldn't pay, and I'll never be the same. When I lose myself in the world, you call me your own. You let your yes be your yes and your no, your no. And I rest in your promise, you're taking me home. But I'll shine your light till the day that I go. I'm never alone. Wherever I go, it is well with my soul. There's not a storm that can sweep me from you. I fall on my face and I praise your name. I'm covered in blood of the Lamb who was slain. You paid the price that I couldn't pay, and I'll never be the same. I've been held by the Savior. I felt fire from above. And I've been down to the river. And I ain't the same, a prodigal return. And all my hope is in Jesus. Thank God that yesterday's gone. All my sins are forgiven. I've been washed by the blood. I'm no stranger to prison. I've worn shackles and chains, but I've been freed and forgiven. And I'm not going back, I'll never be the same. It's why I sing that all my hope is in Jesus. Thank God that yesterday's gone. All my sins are forgiven. I've been washed by blood. There's a kind of thing that just breaks a man, break him down to his knees. God, I've been broken more than a time or two, yes, Lord. But He picked me up, He showed me what it means to be a man. So I sing that all my hope is in Jesus. Thank God that yesterday's gone. And all my sins are forgiven. I've been washed by the blood. I've been washed by the blood.
Thank you, TJ.
Yes, sir.
Hey, I hope you enjoyed that worship music. I forgot something here in this space. If you look as you leave from the worship sanctuary, you'll see the cross lit up on the wall. That cross came out of the former Emmanuel sanctuary. It was hanging down front. The idea here is that as you leave, you're going to be reminded about Jesus on the cross, how He sacrificed for you and gave His life for you. So this is going to be an awesome space. On the floor, you might be able to make out the basketball lines. We're going to plan to do different events in this space. It'll be a variety of things from volleyball, basketball, dinners, worship. This is going to be a really nice community space, and it's a really nice big stage that we have. And I just have to tell you, it feels really weird that when I leave here, I'm not going to have to tear down anything. That's strange for me, and I'm sure for TJ, because we've been doing that for at least 6 years. As we move into this space, these are things we're looking forward to. So we're going to go and check out TJ's office, and then we're going to go out into this big, huge corridor. That's going to be a special hallway that'll explain a lot of the history of the church. So as we wrap up this tour,
My office is a little messy because of the construction workers, not me.
No.
Definitely not me.
okay,
Yeah, for
that's
sure.
true. Well, TJ's office will actually be right off this stage. It should have a, yep, there it is. But as you notice, there's a lot of boxes and stuff, still trying to get things finished and done for the moving. The movers are moving all of our furniture next week. So we're going to be really busy setting up stuff. By the way, if you have any handy skills in putting desks together, or have, bring a screwdriver or some tools you'd like to help, call Pastor Charlene. You can message the church and get with her, let her know, because there's going to be all kinds of stuff that as we move it in, it's going to need to be placed or put together. We have 3 storage units full of stuff. Our downtown campus, its basement, it's full of stuff. And the front door there, our campus there in downtown has stuff in it that we're going to be moving. The music room is going to need to get filled up too. So we're going to take you there in just a moment. Well, let's continue the tour. And we're going to go down these steps. It's going to be a little dark, but we'll watch your step there, Olivia. Now this little cool thing here is a handicap lift, and so anybody that's handicapped, wheelchair, or they can't use stairs, they'll be able to get up to the stage just by using this device. And here's the control system on the panel on the wall, and then up on the top of the stage. So this is a really nice handicap lift that we're excited that we'll be able to use for handicapped people. So as we go out this door, we're going to go into a hallway. This is a super long hallway. But first, I want to take you to this door. This is one of our electrical rooms, and it has been all kinds of pipes, wires, furnace units. But this is one of the main mechanical rooms in the church. And so the floor got painted this week. It looks great. It was a mess in here, but they've got it looking good. So this is a really important room. This has all of our security, all of our lighting, and man, keeping track of all this, I don't know. It's really... But this hallway right here, how you doing, Olivia? You all right?
Great.
This hallway right here is a super long hallway. And what we're going to be doing with this hallway is this will be our kind of our history hallway. And down this hallway will be displays of telling the story of our former churches, the former Trinity Church, the former Emmanuel Church, and then kind of sharing a timeline of when the churches decided to merge together, and then that journey of what brought us to this place. So we're really excited about that. The history team, we'll be able to use some display cases where we'll be changing out some history artifacts and other things like that. So people, they'll be able to come down through this hallway, and as they do, they'll be able to see this faith journey that we've been on. That started a long time ago, really, with the 2 former churches. Now, before we finish that, we're going to go into this music room. And this music room, this will be for our choir, our bell choir, praise ensemble. If you sing in the choir, if you want to learn to play the handbells or you have an instrument, Olivia's smiling. She might want to do that. No? Well, this is where Ryan Weiss Carver, he couldn't be here today. He was sick. But he is our music director for our Journey service. He directs our choir and our praise ensemble and our bell choir. This is where they'll meet and practice. And so this room's going to get set up nice, and it has, of course, a nice countertop, nice storage, also a sink, and a little storage closet. So this will be a nice space for our music groups to be able to do things from. Okay, I want to show you this janitor's closet. And old Dave Kunkler, he has a mess in here, so don't mind his mess. No, it's really from construction and everything, but this is kind of a nice little area where Dave will set up a desk. He's got a place for a filing cabinet, and as you can see, we've got to clean this up from the construction. But this is where he will have his little desk and office as he helps with the maintenance around the church building. So before we come into here, this is another hallway off of this hallway. These will be where our offices are, but I want to share with you the third reason that we learn to give to God. It's because that all we have comes from Him and rightly belongs to Him. So it doesn't matter, as David learned, and what we all need to learn, it don't matter if you're rich or you're poor. It doesn't matter if you have a job or you don't have a job even. It doesn't even matter if you're retired, you lived on a fixed income. It doesn't matter your age. You're an adult, you're a teenager, or you're a young child. This all applies to us, wherever we may be. This principle applies to each and every one of us, because each and every one of us need to go to God with that question, why do I need to give to you? So everything that you are and everything that you have comes from God and rightly belongs to Him. What you are a manager of it. You're a steward of it. So here's an important principle that we see in this passage that we're looking at today. I'm going to go to verses 10 through 13. This is David's prayer. He's praying. And listen to his prayer. He says, "Therefore David blessed the Lord in the presence of all the assembly. And David prayed, Blessed are you, O Lord, the God of Israel, our Father, forever and ever. Yours, O Lord, is the greatness and the power and the glory and the victory and the majesty. For all that is in the heavens and in the earth is yours. Yours is the honor that comes from you, and you rule over all. In your hand are power and might, and in your hand it is to make great and to give strength to all. And now we thank you, our God, and praise your glorious name." So I want to pause for a moment, and I want you to consider these words in David's prayer. The truth being emphasized in this humble prayer before God is that ultimately all that we are, all that we have, it comes from God alone. Our ability that we have to give whatever we give, that also comes from Him. And it would be utterly stupid, foolish for anybody to go through life and not realize that. Yet there's so many people that do. The very least that we should be doing is thanking and praising God for all of that. Now, I'm going to go on to verses 14 through 16 and read these. I want you to follow along with me. He says, "But who am I, and what is my people that we should be able thus to offer willingly?" Then he says, "For all things come from you, and of your own we have given you." And then he says this, "For we are strangers before you and sojourners, as are all of our fathers were. Our days on the earth are like a shadow, and there is no abiding. O Lord our God, all this abundance that we have provided for building you a house for your holy name comes from your hand and is all your own." So David kind of acknowledges this. And we see here that no one has the right to be proud of how much they've given to God. And there's really nothing that we can boast about, since we are only giving Him really what's already His. Even if we were able to give more than enough to support all the Lord's ministries, we still have nothing to be proud about, because we would only be giving back what is rightfully God's. Well, then why does God give us what we have, if it's meant to be given back to Him? And why does God enable some people to give more than other people? What purpose is there in all this? The purpose is not to see who can give more. It's not a competition. The purpose isn't to make you feel bad when you're unable to give as much as you'd like to. No, the purpose behind all of this and all of what David learned, and the purpose behind this huge building project, is our hearts can express our love to God through giving to Him willingly, freely. Giving back to God what is His with willing hearts actually reveals how much we love Him. Not giving because we've been guilted into it, or we've been coerced or excited about it, but because we willingly give. So it's very important that we understand it's not about equal gifts, it's about an equal sacrifice for building God's kingdom. So I'm going to come to the last verse, and we're going to wrap up our tour and close. Verse 17, David says, I know, my God, that you test the heart and have pleasure in uprightness. And in the uprightness of my heart, listen to what David says, when my heart is right, I have freely offered all these things. And now I have seen your people who are present here offering freely and joyously to you. David looks out and he sees the people doing what he's doing, giving from their hearts in a right manner. When we give anything to the Lord, whether it's from our earnings, it's from our service, it's from our time, our talents, what God looks for is not the amount that we've given, but rather that motive and that attitude behind why we've done it. For all of us, if there's any person here who thinks they're exempt from this, then that's a foolish thing to think about, because when you exempt yourself from giving to God, you're kind of saying, I'm exempting myself from loving God. So that's an important spiritual concept David grasped when he struggled with why he couldn't be the one that was going to build God's house. So let every member of God's family in this church, that's the goal. How much power do we have left?
I think we're good.
We're good?
I was just checking, yeah.
You doing okay, Olivia?
Yeah.
She's doing okay. So we're going to wrap up. We're going to finish up this tour. But here's one of the goals of the church and what we want. Every member of God's family in this church, and those who are to come, whether you're old or you're young, you're a teenager, you're a child, you're going to learn to give to God from your willing heart. Not because we pressured you to give, not because we motivated you to give, but because in your heart, you know that you've talked to God about this and you are willingly and freely giving. And that is the only way you can experience giving joyously and happily. And so he deserves, number one, this is what David taught us. Why are we doing this? Why did we build this facility? Why did we not build it cheaply? We've got steel, we've got aluminum, we've got stone, concrete, we've got great flooring, great walls and doors. Why did we not do this cheaply? It's because God deserves the very best. When you're building his house, he deserves the very best. Secondly, it's a privilege. It's an honor to do something like this. And lastly, God owns it all anyway. And we are just being managers of it. So what we've done is we've been stewards to teach the future generations that this church will be around 100 years or more. And when they walk through these hallways or on this grounds, they will see and look back at their forefathers' faith, just like we have done with the faith of those people from Emmanuel and Trinity. And so this is what is exciting about what we're doing here. So we're going to wrap up our tour, and then we will close with a prayer. But I want to invite you to tune in next Sunday, January 23rd. We're going to do another live worship setting here in the church building. And then the goal by January 30th is to have a combined service at 10 o'clock where we're going to have this special consecration of our building, of our worship space, of our pulpit, our communion table, all of these components, musicians, musical instruments, leaders in the life of this church. We're going to have a special consecration Sunday. You know, not a lot of people get to experience something like this. In the Methodist Church, you know, it's a lot of our churches are 100 to 150, even 200 years old. So just think about it. Okay, well, let's finish our tour. We're going to go into this hallway, which will show you where our office is. And this will be the lead pastor's office, which is currently my office. As we come in here, this will be a nice space for the office. And one of the nice features of this office is that we took one of the stained glass windows from the former Trinity building, and we boxed it in and framed it in and put a backlight on it. So that's a nice feature. This is a closet. This is a steel door, but the wooden door was too small. So they ordered a new wooden door, so they'll replace this door, but temporarily for now. We have this steel door up. And then there is also a restroom area here off of this office. So this is a nice office space. So we'll go to the next office. which will be currently Pastor Charlene. This will be her office. As you can see, it's a nice little space for an office. Basic, just a room and space for somebody to have an office. And the next one will be, this office will be for our finance people. This will be for Stacy Kunkler, who currently is our financial secretary, and Ad Fry, who is our church treasurer. They'll set up their desks and they'll have their office spaces in here. And then we have a really cool space here. This is a work room space. It has a kitchen. There'll be a refrigerator in here. Nice countertop space with nice storage. And we just got this massive copy machine. And this machine's really awesome. We'll be able to do a lot of in-house production off of this copy machine. And through this door, it will be our secretary's office.
Oh, wow. Pink.
Pink.
Yeah.
A nice chair for the office feature. A nice pink and white chair. The stained glass window came out of the former Trinity Church building. And this is a nice window here. She can see out and who's coming into the church office. So this is a really nice office area where people will come in and greet the secretary. And of course that chair gets a little too comfortable, as TJ just modeled. And then this is the door that comes out or in from the secretary's office. And this is kind of where we started our tour. And this is kind of currently our church facility. So we've got some loose ends to tie up, as you can see. But we hope to get a lot of that done next week and the week after. Hopefully, we have some audio challenges with some speakers. We can get that resolved. We're hopeful we can do that. Olivia, thank you so much. You've been a trooper. And we're going to say goodbye to you now, but tune back in at 10 o'clock next Sunday for another live worship. God bless you. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next Sunday. Bye.